This conference will now be recorded.
And if you have questions, just go ahead.
Hi, Francis.
Hi, Francis.
Yes, Jenny, you were first, I guess.
I have a question about time and space. After our discussion last Saturday about realism and idealism, I felt I needed to look again at my understanding of time and space, because I think it's partly based on an idealist perspective. So it's going to be a subtle element of belief in it, possibly. So what I've understood previously was that time and space have no reality outside of mind, and that time and mind co-arise and space and perception co-arise. So is that right, or should it really be just another not knowing?
There should be another not knowing, because you kind of surreptitiously introduce a limitation, meaning, in fact, it's a kind of denial that of physical space. The limitation you introduce is all space is mind space.
Yes.
If you would say all space is awareness, that's fine. But if you say all space is the union in a little bit in mathematical terms of the union of sets, is the unions of all minds, that's a limitation. You see, so the idealist view is that there is no other space than minds.
Yes. Yeah.
Whereas we can, of course, there is such a space as mind, space, but we cannot make the claim that this is the only type of space there is, and in particular, we cannot deny the existence, the possibility of the existence of physical space. But ultimately, the beauty of this is that ultimately, physical space-time and mind space-time, if you will, are made of awareness. So awareness is the overarching reality of what is physical and what is mind.
Okay.
So that you see, and that when we look at the world out there, the space that we see and the space of our own mind, we usually establish a distinction between them. It's interesting to see what happens when this invisible border that separates these two spaces vanishes, and when both spaces are seen as one.
Right. And time is strange because it's asymmetric. And years ago, I was very keen on Ouspensky, and he put forward an idea that we see when we look at time, we're actually looking at a fourth dimension of space through the limitations of the human mind. So if you look at it that way, then it loses its asymmetry, which has a beauty to it. But what had occurred to me was that then it means that all time is eternally present. And if you expanded, said that 3 dimensions is a limitation, supposing it was infinite dimensions, and then you expanded it even further and said that every possibility is eternally present now, in awareness, in consciousness. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, that's very true, that every possibility is eternally present in consciousness. However, the moment we bring about a distinction and we have a space and time, we cannot say that there is a symmetry really between space and time. That's why for instance, that's why the metric tensor of the Minkowski space of special relativity is -1 + 1 + 1 + 1.
Yeah.
It's not Euclidean space. So
Yeah.
the time dimension is very different. However, what you said about this constant transformation between potential and actualization is a very general principle. Okay, when we think talking about physics, you know, almost everything about modern physics is based upon this notion of potential and actualization. For instance, potential energy, right? And then energy in action, kinetic energy. So
Yes.
the all quantum field theory is based upon the quantization of the Lagrangian of classical mechanics, and which basically has 2 types of terms: potential and kinetic energy. So everything which is related to movement and to actualization, because any actualization, in fact, is a form of movement.
Yes.
Any form of existence has a form of. No, I couldn't say that. No, but any form of existence which is elapses in time, yes, is in the form of change, of movement. So this constant, it's like a pendulum, you know, when the pendulum is at its highest point, its speed, its velocity is 0, therefore its kinetic energy is 0. And when its potential energy is at its maximum. And when it is at the bottom of its course, then its velocity is maximum. And at that moment, its potential energy is going to be 0 or minimum. So in the course of the movement, there is this constant exchange between potential and actual, if you will. These are the very deep intuition that relate to the one you had about the potentiality of reality of awareness and the actualization in the manifestation that are at the very root of the most modern physical theories.
Yes. Yeah. It's incredible. Yeah. I've been thinking also about memory and what memory really means. Is that access to part of this potential? Is there anything? Is there anything we can? If everything is in potential, then everything in the past is equally in potential as everything in the future. So memory seems to refer to a path through all of that, an actualization of all of that potential. Is that right?
Well, memory is only in the now.
Yeah.
Memory appears as recollections, and whether that's psychological memory or whether that's physical memory, like the presence of fossils in ancient rocks that tells us that this limestone once was at the bottom of the ocean. And that's the story, right?
Yeah.
But this limestone is currently made of all these particles being created and annihilated out of a timeless background, so to speak.
Yes. I mean, sometimes, some non-dual teachers use the idea that memory is only ever in the present, therefore the past doesn't exist. But I don't find that satisfactory, because we agree, or I mean, two people experience the same past, we agree.
Yeah, if you, it's in the same way that to make the claim that elsewhere in time doesn't exist is very similar to making the claim that elsewhere in space doesn't exist.
Yes, right? Yes, yeah. Mm.
So the real question is, in which form, if any, does elsewhere in space or in time exist?
Yeah.
And that's a question we cannot answer one way or the other. But that's not important, that we cannot answer this question one way or the other, because the answer to this question is not germane to non-duality.
Yes.
You see, the problem many people have is that they believe that idealism, for instance, is germane to non-duality, so that if we are not an idealist, we cannot have non-duality. That non-duality implies idealism. That's simply not true.
Yeah. Yes, I understand that now after our last conversation, but I did used to think that way. Yeah. So
regarding the question of memory, you see, memory refers to some events which is elsewhere in time, right? And it is analogous also to some event which is elsewhere in space, like, I don't know, in Shanghai right now.
Yeah.
So do we deny it or not? So that's how it ties to idealism versus realism.
Yes. And so also the idea that there's no time when we're in deep sleep, obviously from our own perspective of our own limited minds, there's no time in deep sleep, but there's a possibility that there is some kind of time which passes during deep sleep, which is out there somewhere. Yeah.
Well, we should define deep sleep, because that's a very ambiguous term. Because if deep sleep refers to a state of sentience which can be observed externally through an electroencephalogram, for instance,
Yeah.
of course there is time, and there are events, since there are electrical signal and neurons still firing during this deep sleep period. So that's why it's a mistake to identify deep sleep and awareness. Awareness is the background of all state, dream state, waking state, deep sleep state. So awareness is, pure awareness is the absence of perceptions. It's the experience of awareness without objects.
Yeah, so because there are no objects or perceptions, then there's no experience of time passing.
Yeah, but it's not just that there is no experience of time, it's that there is no time. Is that time and space are not primeval. That which is primeval is reality. And out of reality, time and space arise. Perhaps they arise at a certain level, at a certain scale of energy or something like that. But time and space are not really necessarily the foundation of reality.
Right.
So awareness is prior to time and space. So that's why it is both, the experience of awareness is both eternal and instantaneous. These are expressions to qualify this experience that only tell us that it is impossible to qualify it in terms of time or space. Time belongs to awareness. Awareness doesn't belong to time.
Yeah.
So, because everything, awareness is the substance of everything we experience. That's a general rule. In particular, the substance of time and space is nothing else than awareness. And the experience of time and space is the experience of awareness. But that is true of the experience of any object.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Thank you Francis. That answers what I needed to know. Yeah.
Well, I think what my answers, what they can do, and I hope they do, is that instead of bringing more knowledge, that they bring more unknowing.
That's what I want to do, Francis. I've realised that there's too much. I've realised that. Yeah.
More humility. You see, more humility. You know, that's Shakespeare. You know, there are more things in heavens and earth, Horatio, than in your philosophy, right?
Yes. 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 Thank you.
Hi, Francis.
Hi, Sylvia.
I would appreciate if you can talk a little bit about the way how you see it, different level of consciousness. There are plenty of religions that use different levels or talk about different level, scientists as well. But I would like to hear the way how you see it or experience.
Well, the first thing to understand is that when people use the word consciousness or awareness,
Yeah.
they may have they attribute different meanings to it. So we first have to make sure that when we use the word consciousness, we are talking about the same thing. So when I use the word consciousness, my definition is the reality which is hearing these words right now.
Okay.
Whatever this reality might be, the reality which is hearing these words right now, meaning the reality of you, meaning the real you. That's what I mean by consciousness. And I never mean the words which are being heard. The words which are being heard are the content of consciousness. So usually the apparent contradictions between various statements about consciousness or awareness originate from different meanings attributed to this word consciousness. For some, only a few actually. They mean the reality that perceives, the reality which is hearing these words right now. But most other people mean something which is perceived, the content of consciousness, thoughts, sensations, external sense perceptions. That's what they mean by consciousness. So what they mean by consciousness are really states. States of consciousness are an aggregate, a set of different type of perceptions. So then if we regroup in one type of perceptions, the ones we have during the day, we have thoughts, we have bodily sensations, and we have perceptions of a world. And these perceptions follow certain rules of consistency, for instance. Now, during the dream, we have also similar bodily sensations, thoughts, and apparently perceptions of an external world, but the rules of consistency are not the same. So that's why we can put this new states under a different label. And then the deep sleep period of the night is also a different state. And then there can be sub-states. For instance, during the day, I may be happy or I may be depressed. So these are going to be two sub-states on my waking state. or I can have smoked a big joint, and then there will be the stone substate of my waking state. So all of that, of course, because of the diversity of states, I mean, it's a very open field for research, for classification, there is a lot of studies that can be done. But what I call consciousness is not that. It is the reality that perceives.
Okay. And if I address now a little bit deeper angle of the question, can you see me or hear me?
I can
Hello?
hear you, Sylvia.
So you in your spiritual path have seen or was able to go in a different level of a consciousness, if I can put it this way. For example, in meditation.
No, because the consciousness I talk about has no level.
Okay.
There are levels of mind, there are different mind states, just as there are different states of the body. So there are different states of the body mind. And for instance, you have the waking state, the dream state, the deep sleep state. That's what I was trying to say. And you have for instance, the stone state and or the drunk state and the normal state.
Mm-hmm.
So awareness, there are no states. It is what it is.
Well, I've been last week experiencing during the meditation like merge subject and object and come to the place which was kind of like an empty and a full. But as soon as I wanted to investigate or I had to go more into backwards to the perceiver or to viewer or something. And so, but at the other hand, I have read or heard people saying that yes, and I was happy and I was floating and it was this of that and this. And for me, there is nothing that can be put in a words. So I just wondering if I'm on the good track or is it just, but now you said that there are no different levels. So how can I go deeper or can I stay longer in the space, or what would be the right way to approach this?
If I can use an analogy, in this analogy, the waking state is more real than the dream state.
Yeah.
In the same way, awareness can choose to ignore itself, which is an artificial state, or it can stop playing this game of ignoring itself, which is a natural state. These are not really states. They are decisions made. They are creative decisions made by awareness reality. As a result, these creative decisions generate different states.
Yes.
And basically, the states that get generated are states of an awareness or state of awareness of our true nature. And we could say these are happy states or not happy states. But these states are not states of awareness. They are states appearing in awareness, like any other states. And they are states created by awareness and sustained by awareness and annihilated by awareness. But the fundamental state is not the state of unawareness. The fundamental state, the natural state, is a state of awareness, not the state of ignorance. The states of ignorance require, in particular, the presence of objects with which awareness can identify temporarily to play the game of ignorance. And the game of ignorance, when it is played, is happy in the beginning. Because in the beginning, we enjoy we enjoy being human, we enjoy being a man, a woman, etc. We enjoy all of that, the intensity. Like a mountain climber enjoying the danger.
Yeah.
But then we fall, and then we are in the hospital, and then we don't enjoy as much.
Okay. And for example, if when I'm at this place, this emptiness, I also heard people saying that it's you feel that you are everything, or everything is, or everybody's awareness, and you feel that all the people. But I can see it that the subject object, it's coming together, or I can go backwards and forwards. But when I am then on a higher stage, but I'm not in this place, for example, in the deep meditation, I don't have this feeling that I am a tree, or I am a table, or I am the other person. There is some connection, but there is not like what I read in the books. So I just wondering if that's the way how I should more merge into that, or how does it work?
What is important is to use the right benchmark if you want to test the state that is appearing in you. And as I said, basically, there are two types of states. There are states that are the result of ignorance, and then there is the natural state. So the first benchmark, the first test to use, if you will, is, am I worried? Is there a worry? And by worry, I mean, is there a serious worry? Is there an existential type of worry present?
Yeah.
If yes, it means that at that moment, we believe that we as awareness, as reality, are dependent upon a body-mind. That's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
If there is no worry, first, in a state in which there is no worry, there is no desire to change the state. Right?
Yes.
So, if there is no worry, I would say carry on. Yeah, that's a kind of military thing, right? Carry on. If there is worry, then it is a signal that you have moved into an awareness of your true nature. You have, because you enjoyed it. At least in the beginning, it was exciting.
Yes.
Now it has become less exciting. You are in the hospital after the fall in mountain climbing. You want to get out of the hospital. So the way out of the hospital is to realize it's just a dream.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. One little more question. I think it was 2 weeks ago, meditation, when you were talking about being indifferent to the resistance of the point or 0 point of the place where there is no resistance.
I don't remember what I said.
There was something like, how can I remain indifferent to that is now neutral? It's like when...
To see if things are neutral,
yeah,
what is it? What is this impulse that wants me to change the situation?
it's still ego, no?
Or it's ignorance, definitely. I don't use the term ego, but
yeah.
Definitely. But the question is, what is ignorance? And I could answer this question intellectually, giving you a definition, but that's not what is really going to answer the question. That which is going to answer the question is the experience of it. The experience of ignorance. And in this moment that I was describing, where the situation is neutral, not pleasant, not unpleasant, when the impulse arises, this is unbearable, this has to change. This impulse is, if you will, the experience of ignorance as it takes birth, as it's pure ignorance at this moment.
Yeah.
You see, because ignorance is telling us, in spite of the fact that the situation is completely neutral, the ignorance is telling us it's unbearable.
Something should happen.
Something should happen, yes. And it comes from how can I say, a resistance to what is. Even if what is like someone, it's like, let me take a metaphor. Someone who, even if he's not aggressed by people, is going to start aggressing people who are totally innocent and totally neutral towards him. We know people like that, right? Yeah, people, they don't have any grudge against him. They don't know him. They are just there, and this guy is going to go aggress him. So it is, and this aggression comes exactly, that's exactly, if we do a post-mortem of it, the same phenomenon that when the situation is completely neutral, I don't like it, I want to aggress the situation. I want to change, to attack, to destroy and replace. Because a change is destroying and replacing. I want to destroy and replace the situation. You find that in politics. You find that everywhere.
Yes. Well, I've been last month, I spent actually 1 month like 3 generations in small cottage, and it was in quarantine, like 70 square meters, certain people, 1 bathroom. And so this was very dynamic. And it was interesting because afterwards, like now I am already 3 weeks at home, and everything, it's very peaceful, very neutral, but it's interesting to see that it was actually for me easier to in the circumstances stay in connection with me than now when nothing happened, and it's really just, it's like big beasts that want to eat by something, some, you know, side drama or something, and it's actually quite hard to keep to watch it and do not get out of the truth.
There is something I want to add to. It is not like, let's say you're at home and you have no worries, you're fine. And then the thought comes, oh, let's do that. You see, and you could say, okay, this thought comes from getting bored because everything was, but there is a difference. If it comes from a place of enthusiasm, it is not a reaction against the situation that was there. On the contrary, it comes from a form of contemplation of the totality of the situation, and then the new arises in you, a new impulse, which is a happy thing, which is an enthusiastic thing. It doesn't come out of misery, but out of peace and happiness. And you say, okay, let's watch a movie. And, oh, it's time to cook dinner. Let's cook dinner, you know, but it has to be happy, you see. It's very different from, I'm freaking out. Everything is not moving. Oh, if I stay like that, I'm going to die. Something needs to happen because it's unbearable. It's unbearable. It's like silence is unbearable for some.
Yes, yes.
You see, it's very different. It seems to be similar, very different. So the issue I was addressing is the latter one, when it's unbearable. It's not that the situation is eminently bearable and neutral. I am just fine and worry-free. And then, oh, let's do this, or
it's
let's
like
call a friend.
Like difficulty to accept neutrality, because it's also exception, right?
We have to. So in this neutral state of meditation, we can see all this aggression against the situation come to the surface. And this non-acceptance of the situation, non-acceptance of the now, of course, if in the situation there are people, will translate into aggression against those people, gratuitous for no reason.
Okay, thank you very much.
And what is interesting, if you are in this situation, and if people come and start aggressing you, and if you know, if you are aware of this impulsion in them, because then you will feel it in you. If it is in them, you will feel it. And yeah. then if you have a reaction which is appropriate, which is instead of, if they verbally assault you to in return, verbally assault them, if you remind them of the reality of the situation, for instance, saying, oh, you know, guys, I mean, it's so quiet here. It's so, we are so without a problem. Why should we beat on ourselves? You know, all of a sudden you will see their aggression collapse because they realize, you know, you didn't punch back, you just alluded to the situation as a whole, that there was no problem, that all these problems were made up, like politicians made up problems to get elected.
I have noticed this when I was home in this dynamic situation, but it works like in a certain curve. Like at the beginning, they try to get involved in arguing, and they were kind of like, even their aggression it will grow because I was neutral. Like they didn't like it, and it's like bubbles, and at a certain point it's just blow, and then it's peace. But it's coming back, and yeah, interesting to watch again.
Yeah, it is because in this case the problem is never in the world. The problem is in them. You see, it is their non-acceptance of their true nature that translates into a non-acceptance of the moment, of what the moment has to offer, including the non-acceptance of others, because they separate themselves.
They usually call me ignorant because I was not involving in discussion from politics to COVID to whatever the past, but it's actually all the way around, but they don't see it. So yeah, beautiful to watch it.
In which country are you, Sylvia?
I'm living currently in Belgium. Thank you very much for your answer.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Hi, Francis.
Hi, Fatma.
I have a question about art and the impact of art on our receptivity towards awareness. I read that, I think in one of the book from Jean Klein, that listening or seeing a true piece of art can increase this sensitivity and openness in us. And I experienced for myself that I can listen to music, piano, classical pieces like forever. I can listen the whole day, and sometimes some of them are like so feeling so intense in the middle of my chest that I don't know if it's a good thing or if it's a bad thing. It's pretty intense, and I also cannot differentiate between the true piece of art and the so-called art, and that's something that I would like to hear your view on it. And yeah.
Yes. The art is not in the piece of art. The art is in the experience when you enjoy the piece of art. So, a piece of art a so-called piece of art, like a piece of music, may or may not create the experience of art. Art is an experience, really. Art is not an object. Art is what happens when you are touched by a piece of music, a landscape, a painting, a building, a sunset. Just as love is what happens when you are touched by a word, by the expression, by an action, or just who knows what by. So just as love is an experience, art really is an experience. Works of art, like beautiful musical compositions, are objects that come from the artistic experience, the experience of art, the artistic experience. The composer had the artistic experience and translates this experience, takes note of it in the form of the composition. In turn, the pianist, hopefully, upon playing the composition, has also the artistic experience. And to the extent that the performer is experiencing the artistic experience, then this experience will be conveyed to the listener, who in turn may or may not resonate and experience the artistic experience. So it's very important to understand that. Not every music is artistic in that sense, because some music may lead to a different form of experience which doesn't qualify as the artistic experience. The artistic experience is an experience that takes us out of the boundaries of our humanity. That would be, in other words, artistic experience takes us to a different place. It can be a place of happiness, a place of serenity, a place of love, or a place of just beauty, a place of understanding. But all these places are beyond the limitation of a single human being. So that would be, some people are more sensitive to different media. So you seem to be sensitive to music, to this form of music. It is not the only form of music that is artistic. And why some of us resonate more with music than with images, or we don't know. And why would you resonate more with certain types of music? We don't know. We're all different.
Yeah, sometimes I just don't know if I always feel like if something like that, like you said, the experience that the composer has experienced when composing that piece, and depending on the performer, how it's being transferred, and then I as a listener I receive that experience being transferred to me. And sometimes what is a question for me is that, do I as awareness recognize that this experience is like experiencing awareness, or is it like am I confusing it with feelings and like emotion that is from the body mind?
The emotion of the body mind is a response to the music. If the emotion is one of sadness, depression, that is not the result of the artistic experience. The result of artistic experience, because this type of emotion is a sign that, on the contrary, you are put back, so to speak, in the jail of this human body mind, you know, or back in this limitation. The artistic experience has an effect on the body of liberation. So if the experience is one of liberation, of one of being unburdened, happiness, joy, also love and intelligence, all of that together, you know, a feeling of being free at last, you see. That would be then the sign that this type of emotions in the body come from the experience. It's like the experience, the artistic experience is like the Big Bang, you know. In the beginning, we cannot pinpoint where it is, when it is, what it is. But then there is this explosion in the body mind of, which is in a sense the aftershock of this initial timeless and spaceless experience of our true nature.
Yeah.
So beautiful music constantly takes us back to that place, and so it's a multiplicity. And every time there is this explosion into the body mind, all these waves of freedom and of love.
Thank you very much, Francis. Thank you.
You're welcome, Fatima.
Hi, Francis.
Hi, Sujata.
You just mentioned something, but you've mentioned this often, and you know, it has always caused some questions to arise. Is, you know, so my basic question would be, what is love? Number one, and then when we are always advised to act from a place of love, intelligence, or understanding. I'm not sure what that means. Also, it's not very clear. So would you expand? Yeah.
Yeah. First, love is an experience.
Yes.
It's not an object. It's an experience. And we can start with saying it's an experience that happens, for instance, between two human beings. We start with that.
Mm-hmm.
Between two human beings. And the experience of love is what happens when these human beings connect as awareness. When they see their oneness, they see that they are the same reality. They don't see it necessarily with clarity through the mind, as I am explaining it right now using words, but they see it deeply as an experience. The experience, you and I, we are the same reality. So the real you and the real me are the same. So that's basically the experience of love. So then this experience of love doesn't have to be limited to between two human beings.
Yeah, can I just interrupt, Francis? Actually, just between the two human beings, let's stay at that. So it just seems like, you know, because like you just said, you can't bring the mind in and do this analysis, right? That, oh, this, you know, your reality and my reality are one. You know, so it seems like it's still just an experience of peace or just experience of awareness. And that's it. I don't know how there's another entity in the picture. Does that make sense?
Yes, it's a,
Because it's an instantaneous thing, right? That experience, or timeless, or
yes, but the body is invited. When the body is invited, feelings, emotions, if you will, feelings come up. And so this feeling of oneness, all these mirroring neurons, you know, at a distance, line up between these apparently separate human beings, and they realize their you know, in the inner patio here in the house, we have two small trees, and one is a male and one is a female, and they are at a distance. But let me tell you that they love each other. Although they are at a distance, I don't think that for them they feel the distance. So they come up with all these extraordinary flowers or whatever, you know, on both sides. That's really funny. And they are beautiful. So what I mean by that is that the human body is designed for love. I'm not talking about sex. I'm talking about something deeper that takes place. It can be with or without sex. It can be with a child, it can be with a parent or with a stranger. But it's that we are designed to, at some point, to resonate, you see, and to feel at the. So then, if you will, the initial experience, which is timeless, is like the invitation to dance, and then the body dances. And it is this harmony, and it is really at the cellular level. It is deeply programmed in the body, in the genes to dance that way.
yeah. So the thing is, Francis, then is that wouldn't that kind of a result also occur if this so-called that emotion even came from attachment, something personal, not impersonal?
It has nothing to do with it. It has nothing to do with attachment.
No, but like a child, you know, with a child.
Yeah, it has to do with an experience in the moment, But this experience in the moment, it is not this once this communication, this knowledge, this knowing that we are the same gets established, it remains established. So look at a little girl petting her cat, you know, and the cat is enjoying and the little girl is enjoying. And that's love there, that's the experience of love in action.
So if that kind of an emotion or feeling appears in the body, can we assume that it is actually because there is this resonance and this understanding of our true nature, the shared true nature?
Oh yeah, when you pet a dog and you love the dog and the dog loves you in return, enjoys it, you know, the dogs don't lie, unlike
Right.
human beings. We know it.
Okay.
The dog knows it. I mean, I'm talking about things. When someone likes you, you know it. I mean, you know it. If someone comes to you and pretend to like you with an ulterior motive and gives you a lot of gifts and presents and you think that's fishy, it puts you not comfortable, right? So we know that. But
okay.
the problem is that I have to use words to describe things that we know very well.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to, is then one shouldn't question where this, how this emotion resulted. Was it personal? Was it impersonal? So should we just say, okay, when that occurs, because now that is an objective experience, right? The body resonance.
Yes, but once to know our identity with the other is not something which goes away in the presence of the experience of the bodies. It remains. That's why I was saying, as the little girl pets the cat, this oneness between these two sentient beings remains. It is a background of the caress.
Yeah. So then it comes back to that original question I had, is it seems like it is actually nothing to do with that other person per se. It is the experience of awareness, of peace, just staying there.
Oh yes, because it is not personal. It is not limited to two people.
Yeah.
It is or to two beings. It is in fact the universe loving itself at this point of juncture. You see, between the little girl and the cat, but behind this point of juncture, there is the universe, and it is this entire universe in this little aspect of itself, enjoying itself, in celebrating itself.
Yeah. So then, the experiment, running the experiment of act out of love or think out of love, is really just again being just staying in my true nature, or and just acting out of that. That's all.
Yes, but yes, and it's natural. It's not artificial. You see, we know the experience of love. We know the experience of beauty. The only problem is two problems. One, attachment. So attachment is not love. It's the opposite of love. And as a result, the second point is that we are not established in it. You see? So if we get rid of the attachment, then we get established in love.
But to get rid of the attachment is really understanding my true nature.
Yes, and understanding the true nature of love, that love is not really between two human beings, but it is from awareness to awareness.
So then the bottom line is, when one has to act out of love, understanding, or truth, it really is just coming from an understanding of one's true nature and just acting out of it with nothing, no additional flavor or anything has to be put on. It's just, I am awareness and let it just flow. Does that make sense? I don't have to take a position, is what I'm saying. I don't have to take a position of understanding now or truth or love or anything.
No, because love, it is what it is.
Yeah.
You see, it is because love is a form of understanding. It's, as an experience, it is a form of understanding. Then you can reflect upon it conceptually afterwards, as we are doing now. And then that's an understanding about prior facts, and that's also a form of understanding, but it is not really the same thing as this feeling, understanding that comes with the experience of love. Because the body is very much involved in the experience of love. The bodily sensations.
But that seems to be a result of it, of
Yes.
the result of the experience, not coming
well,
from the experience. I mean, you don't produce the, or rather.
It is a result, but it is also the perpetuation of it.
Yeah.
Ongoing. The form it takes, because you don't remain in the pure consciousness. Then there are objects of perception. They all celebrate the pure consciousness. The experience of love flows unbroken, uninterrupted, in the presence of emotions.
Yeah. So that is what, it seems like all this just flows. There is no need to bring any reason or any mind into it per se.
Yes.
So when running the experiment, there is actually no, acting out of love or truth or understanding. It is just letting it just go and letting it flow.
Yes. In the beginning, when we conduct experiment, we can start with the concept, my awareness and your awareness is the same awareness. But if we cannot stay with the concept, because the situation is going to evolve, the interaction is going to take place. But then what is important is that this first concept has established a new rules of the game, if you will, for this interaction. And this interaction is going to unfold on a different basis, and which is the basis of love. But then whatever happens is going to be a flow of events, of perceptions in the body, of interactions, of words, whatever, gestures. And we shouldn't go back to the intellectual aspect, because it would spoil this spontaneous unfolding and the materialization, if you will, of love, of the potential into the actualization of the potential in these events that happens between these two people.
Yeah, understood.
Because once the love switch has been switched on, love remains on, and then whatever takes place up until at some point we decide to switch it off. But that doesn't need to be the case. In other words, it would be a misunderstanding to believe the moment event takes place, the light goes off. No, the light of love is on, and events can take place within it, illuminated by it.
Right.
Words,
Right.
interactions, caresses, whatever, actions. Up until we decide, oh, no, you are there, I am here, we are separate. And then that's when we decide to switch off the light.
Okay. So I'm sorry, I had interrupted you. You talked first about two human beings, and then you were going to expand to, I guess.
Well, yeah. Because in fact, these two human beings that are interacting, if I can use a metaphor, it would be the metaphor of the kiss. If you say, okay, it's only the lips, or in French, something deeper, that is interacting during a kiss, that would be a very limited view of what's going on, because behind the lips, there is a totality, right, of the bodies that are actually participating. And if we extend this metaphor of the kiss, in this metaphor, the two human beings that are interacting, the two human bodies, are like just the two lips kissing each other. But in fact, behind each of those, there is the entire
awareness.
Universe.
Yeah.
And the entire universe, right?
Got it.
And at that moment, in what they realize in the kiss is that they are one because they are the universe, you see? So they are separate here apparently, like my two hands are apparently separate. And they touch each other and they seem to be different at that contact, and that's a caress. But in fact, look, they connect.
Right.
They are one. So in the same way, two human beings, in this metaphor, they are my hands, but all the rest of this body in the metaphor is the entire universe. So they are one in the universe.
So it comes down to the same thing, the understanding that our true realities are one.
Of course, it always comes down to the same.
Yeah. Okay.
But when something happens, because there is this deep, just as the kiss doesn't involve just the lips, but the entire body, as some of us know, right? The loving relationship between two human beings involves, in fact, the entire universe. And that's why in the love we rejoice, because we know, we experience deeply the non-locality of this event.
Yeah.
Its universality. And that's why I wanted to move from just saying, the love between two human beings, but between two sentient beings, or between a man and a tree, between a man and a forest, or between a man or a woman and the sky and the stars.
Right. So then I don't need to question where that love is coming from. Is it personal? Is it not? If that experience happens, let it just happen. I don't need to question where it's coming from.
No, you don't want to question.
Yeah.
It's made to. It's like when you drink a very fine champagne. You don't need to read the label.
Yeah. So my takeaway from this, Francis, is just acting from a true an understanding of my true nature and let it just flow. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. You can start with, as I said, with this intellectual as a starter.
Yeah,
As a
yeah,
starter, right? But then it goes wherever it goes.
exactly.
It is free.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you, Francis.
Welcome, Sujata.
Hello, Francis.
Yes, hi, Ron.
Hi. Hello. Just when you were explaining to, was it Fatima, who listened to the classical music, and you were explaining art as more loving and happy, but isn't art also, the tragedy expressed through art of the human condition, the sorrow and pain of it? Isn't that also, can that also be art?
Definitely, generally speaking, tragedies are expressions of ignorance. That being said, it doesn't imply that Hamlet or King Lear are works coming from ignorance. Works of art have more meaning than the story they tell when they tell a story. For instance, you can have an opera with beautiful arias and a very stupid story. Case in point, Madame Butterfly. There are beautiful arias in this story, in this opera. But the story is incredibly stupid. There is this stupid prostitute in Japan who falls in love with this totally lousy and unethical American hunk, and and she has a child from him, and of course she pretends to marry her, but it's not a real marriage. So the guy is really a crook and morally a criminal, right? But in the movie, he's presented like a decent man, then who comes back. So he abandons her with a child, and then later comes back with his new wife. Can you imagine the cruelty of it? And claims a child. So the poor girl gives a child and kills herself. I mean, it's misery all the way, and it's stupid people all the way. So stupid and debased people sometimes presented as not being such. So there is no art in the story. All the art is in the music. And very often also, if you take Shakespeare, the art is not in the story. We all know what the story is. We all know. We all know everybody dies at the end, and And we all know that there are bad people in the story. And that's not that which is interesting. What is interesting is how the story is told, and all this reflection, to be or not to be. That's a question, That. So the story in the tragedy, in the best tragedies, is a pretense for the music, for the philosophy, for something else, and sometimes for the love. But in and by itself, tragedies are ignorance.
So it's how the tragedy is presented, how it's staged that makes it art, not the tragedy itself.
Yeah, it's how they show how they show often how ignorance, in fact, extinguishes in us the light of love and of reason. And as a result, ignorance leads to catastrophic outcomes. So that's in the best, the best playwrights. The ignorance is not condoned. Ignorance is exposed in the tragedy. I prefer the way it gets exposed in the comedies, but that's a personal preference.
It seems to me like some of the best movies I see are when a person that maybe is a bad person does good things, and you have a hard time deciding, is this a bad person or a good person? It's like a mixture of things, which if you discuss it with people after, you'll have totally different opinions, like, oh, he was a rogue. No, he had a good heart. And to me, those are the things that really are more art.
Yeah, because there is a complexity in the human heart. Nobody is 100% ignorant. Nobody is 100% in wisdom.
Yeah.
These are myths. So the beauty is that the observation of the human heart with its complexity and its oscillation between ignorance and wisdom.
All right. Thank you, Francis.
So it can be described through just as you have beautiful paintings that are very dark, and you have beautiful paintings that are very light. So comedy would be light paintings, and tragedy would be painting with a lot of dark colors. It can be both beautiful.
Yeah. All right, great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Francis.
Thank you, Francis. Thank you very
Francis.
much.